Welcome into the Thursday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. Hope everybody is off to a fantabulous start to their day today. Joe Rexrode, we got a lot going on the program today. How are you?
We do. I don't think we don't even really have to talk that much today.
We don't.
Just throw out some questions and let people run with them.
That's going to be how it goes today.
We got a lot of guests.
A lot of guests today. Scott Ramsey from the Nashville Sports Council, president and CEO of the Music City Bowl, Transperfect Music City Bowl, will join us at 7 o'clock. Predators assistant coach Darby Hendrickson will be with us at 7:30. Preds in Dallas tonight, taking on the Stars. And our weekly visit with Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports, coming up at 8 o'clock as well. So busy day here on the program. Nick Keyser, what's going on? How we doing?
Good morning. Yeah, back at it, Sports Talk. A couple hours with the guys last night, filling in for Jared, still Billy. So, yeah, just rocking and rolling, man.
You filled in for Jared yesterday?
Yeah, me, Jake, and Frazier.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think it's Jake and TD later today.
How about that?
All right.
Jake and TD. There you go. That's a long day for you.
It was indeed. I have some tea instead of coffee this morning.
Tea. Look at that.
Why does that have more caffeine?
No, not that. My sinuses have gotten the best of me, and talking yesterday did not help. So,
okay.
Yeah.
You're like a singer on tour. You
Yeah.
gotta,
Yeah.
keep the vocal as I punch my microphone. Keep the vocal cords nice and limber.
Yep, just like REO Speedwagon.
Wow.
And their accordion, yes.
Nice. Joe, it's happening. Bill Belichick, the next head coach at North Carolina. We talked about it yesterday. It looked like it was on the verge, and here it is. He is reportedly getting paid $10 million a year on a 3-year deal at North Carolina. Your reaction to this news that is now official and is now happening. The next head coach of North Carolina football, Bill Belichick.
Yeah, it's wild. It's interesting, too, seeing, two totally opposite takes yesterday. One from Stuart Mandel, actually both friends of the show, Stuart Mandel, who I work with at The Athletic, who I probably lean that way, which is like this feels like something along the lines of like a Charlie Weiss. Some of these NFL, Bill Callahan to Nebraska is an example he brought up, where it's like we're going to come in here and do the NFL thing in college and it'll be great. And because remember, you can, some people could say, well, Saban was in the NFL. Yeah, he was a college coach who went to the NFL for like 2 years and then was like, oh, yeah, I'm going back to college. A little different. So I tend to agree with him. But then Dan Wetzel from Yahoo, also a friend of the show, had this full, this is going to be amazing and this is going to be such an advantage for them. I mean, I'm here for the whole thing.
Sure.
I guess the one thing I agree with Wetzel on with that is it is North Carolina. And, what have they ever done?
Right.
North Carolina has always been one of those, man, there's a lot of potential with that program. And they've had, here and there. But even Mac Brown, I mean, he's getting first-round quarterbacks in there, and they're not, they're going 8-4. So, I mean, I get it. It's going to be interesting. If you ask me right now to predict what we're going to be saying in 2-3 years, I think it's just going to be like, man, it just didn't. I'm sure it'll be okay, but I don't think it's going to be great.
I mean, I've got a hard time thinking that it's going to be great. It's a 3-year deal. You've got the transfer portal at your disposal, so you can flip a roster a whole lot quicker than you used to be able to. But they didn't really have a recruiting class this year because Mac Brown was out and a lot of guys transfer. So I know the portal's open, so maybe he grabs some people that way. I just he's 72 years old. You in for the long haul here to build this thing up? I'm just really interested to see how it goes. Now, I'm with you. It's North Carolina football. It's not like there's some, long, rich history of winning there. So if you're them, why not? I mean, you've got the greatest NFL coach of all time interested in coaching your program. So sure. I mean, maybe he turns out to be just like a recruiting mastermind. They're like, you know what? This is an NFL development factory. I'm Bill Belichick. I'll get you to the NFL. I'll get you to be a high pick. And maybe that works for him. I think there's, number one, a ceiling of what that place probably is in football. And number two, like I still think this is going to be a lot of work as they move forward here. And I question how long that's gonna take for a guy who's 72 years old.
Yeah, and again, I mean, look, he was just making a public pitch, so it doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't get it. But again, all the stuff he was saying on McAfee, it's like, Bill, these things, people already do this stuff, and like Georgia, and I know Alabama's different now because Saban's gone, but like Georgia, Ohio State, these programs do all that stuff, and they're like, see, look at all the pros that we turn out.
Yeah.
Like, it's still going to be hard to beat them, I think, in a lot of recruiting battles, and then it comes down to there's players like there's certainly more than one option that for a place to go to become an NFL player. So do players want to play for him? I mean, that's some of it too. I mean,
Right.
You still have to, in the NFL, it's just like, hey, come on in, let's talk about the film. Okay, we're gonna sign you to a contract. In college, there is some level of, hey, buddy,
Yeah,
would you like to play here?
right.
I'm a nice guy. Like,
I'm just sitting there trying to imagine like Belichick in somebody's living room on a recruiting pitch. I mean, look, he might be really good at it. I don't know.
hey,
But I mean, he was great on TV. I was stunned by it.
That's the thing is like one thing we did learn in the last year is that for people who don't know him is that, this mumbling guy at the pressers is just because he hates doing pressers. Right. So first of all, I really hope that I think that a lot of public opinion on him has been helped by his media stuff.
I agree.
So I really hope he gets that and doesn't revert back to guy when he's doing pressers at UNC. Like, my God, man. I mean, this is kind of like your post-retirement job. Have some fun with it, and I think that will help him too.
I agree.
I think it front-facing, being sort of a little bit amicable and being willing to talk about things, I think it would help him. So it's gonna be super interesting for sure. You forced me to bet right now, man. I don't know. I just don't know that like all the great players are going to start flocking there.
That coaching matchup of Belichick versus Dabo that we've all been clamoring to see. Next year we get it, baby. I mean, I don't even know if they play next year, but I assume they will meet at some point.
Probably. Yeah. So I saw somebody tweeted like, imagine Belichick's face when he sees Dabo running down that hill.
Wow, he's coming down really fast, huh? They're going to start selling sleeveless Tar Heel hoodies.
Oh, I bet you they will. I mean, they already did this. Did you see the thing they did, like the Family Guy thing? That was kind of cool. Yeah, it's like, apparently, I don't know how they did it so fast, but it was like this Family Guy scene with like, Peter and them talking to Bill at the UNC practice. It's
wow.
Pretty funny. Oh, I mean, if you're UNC, first of all, you just put a ton of money. I mean, it doubled what you're paying Mac Brown. Yeah. Apparently $20 million in the NIL coffers. So
Mac Brown's sitting there like, what in the world, man?
Well, look, here's the stupid thing about college sports. Good for them. Maybe it works. And so then it's like, hey, worth it. But if you could get this kind of money for this, like you could also have gone out and gotten like a really good college coach who has like maybe 15, 20 years ahead of them coaching your program. But for Belichick, that's where the money. Okay. Well, that's college sports for you in a nutshell.
Today is a really good day. I mean, every Thursday is a good day to have Charles Robinson on. I'm really fascinated to get his opinion on Belichick electing to go for college football. And I guess what this continues to signal to me, Joe, of Belichick, I guess, reading the tea leaves and looking at the NFL and realizing that it just wasn't going to happen. Or maybe he just really wants to go to college football. I don't know. But that's still how I kind of view this. Of you're like 15 wins away from breaking a shoeless NFL record for wins, and now you're going to college football.
Yeah. I mean, even last year, I wondered, with him just because look, the stuff he was doing, including evaluating players, didn't go well late in his tenure, in New England. So I think that's got to be a big part of this. I will be interested to hear what Charles has heard on that. And that's the thing, though. But the timing of all this suggests it's like, okay, well, you have to, if you're going to do the college thing. I mean, the portal is this week, so it's now. Like they can't wait for you. Yep. So I have to think he at least couldn't have felt good about any jobs that he really wanted in the NFL.
Next fall, on like a Friday night somewhere in rural North Carolina. Bill Belichick, Josh Heupel on the sideline, just battling it out for some high school recruit out there. I look forward to that.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be fun.
There you go. Yeah.
Dabo coming in on a helicopter.
We're on to Wake Forest.
Bill Belichick to North Carolina. We'll take your reaction to that. 615-737-1025. We'll also get into the Titans coming up next. The best and worst things in sports later this hour at 645. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game.
What's the emotion going to be like on the field, on the sideline during the game, and also afterwards in that post-game embrace?
Yeah, I think it'll be. I think by the time we get to game day, we're ready to go play. That's a place I have very fond memories. But this is the place where I'm trying to build them and have the same type of memories and relationships with my staff here and the players here. So it'll be a normal game when it kicks off. Again, a lot of respect and love for the people there. But we're still going to go out there and try to go win the football game. It'll be good to see those guys. It'll be good to say hello, and then I wish them luck, and they'll move on to their next game. We'll move on to ours. And, Zach and I will probably get together in the offseason and share some stories, but it'll be a pretty normal NFL Sunday from that regard. But pregame and postgame will always be good to see those people.
That's Brian Callahan discussing the matchup with Cincinnati coming up this weekend at Nissan Stadium. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. The Bengals rolling into town later this week, obviously. Brian Callahan, very familiar with those people in the organization, coming from there, being the offensive coordinator under Zach Taylor. A lot of things going on in the life of Joe Burrow right now, by the way. So something to monitor there.
Yeah, man. Jeez.
It's weird.
TMZ's all over. Well, it's basically his girlfriend's been outed, right?
Yeah,
basically.
pretty much. He was very upset at his press conference yesterday. I've never seen Joe Burrow so animated in my life.
I mean, I feel it's kind of like, I saw it too. It's like, I feel for him, but anybody out there be like, okay, well, let me sign up for that. But, you got to be in those shoes. Yeah, there's tremendous reward. Also, it kind of got to suck, right?
Yeah, it's kind of
it's kind of like us, like we go around.
And apparently, there's just this group of people just like finding NFL players' houses and breaking into them while they're playing games.
Well, I mean, look, if you want absolute certainty that someone's not at their home, then I guess you can definitely, with like pro athletes, you can have some certain windows when you feel good about that.
Like Tua was asked about it yesterday. He's like, yeah, I've hired security and they're armed, so don't do that. Thank you, Tua.
Tua's got like, he's in Miami. He's got like Scarface's, Al Pacino's bodyguards.
Yeah.
That was interesting from Burrow. We'll see what it does. Is he doing one-arm push-ups for the Titans game?
Could be.
Could
be. And is Brian Callahan doing one-arm push-ups on the sideline at Titans practice this week? Obviously, when people are making a lot of this game for him going up against his mentor in Zach Taylor. He's kind of done his best, I think, to downplay it this week. Look, I really like that place, love those guys, but it's a football game, and I'm trying to win here. It's not like there's any, pent-up animosity there from him leaving the job to come be a head coach. So that part of it kind of is what it is. But Paul Dehner, friend of the show, by the way, putting out a very nice piece at The Athletic, kind of detailing Callahan's journey to get here through Cincinnati with Zach Taylor and different points. First off, an interesting kind of nugget at the beginning of it about a text that Brian Callahan sent his first day as an NFL head coach on the opening weekend this weekend, which was cool. But kind of detailing the patience and the commitment from the Bengals, both to Zach Taylor and to Brian Callahan. That was pretty cool. Kind of what did you learn about the Callahan Taylor Bengals dynamic here that Paul Dehner put together at The Athletic?
Well, it's a cool story with, and they both let him in on some text to each other that they've sent this year. So my favorite is from Callahan to Zach Taylor after one of the losses, many to choose from, that said, quote, "Football sucks. This is a miserable sport." I like that. But to me, the really, you knew they were close. They go back to, well, I mentioned Bill Callahan at Nebraska. Zach Taylor was his quarterback in Nebraska. So they go back to that. But I thought the interesting stuff in here was also about, and I forgot actually until I was reading again, Brian Callahan's presser here when he was introduced, and he got very emotional and, even talking about like Mike Brown, the Brown family and the Bengals. But here's a quote from this that I found really interesting, because remember, 1-15, and I'm trying to think what was their, so they're 6-25-1. And a nice tie in there. 6-25-1 in their first 2 years. So again, right now it's bad. It's 3-10, and it's we got to keep this running tally correct. 9-28, I believe.
Yeah,
9-28 for Titans fans haven't. But again, that's different regimes. But
9-26 since they fired J.
Since
Rob.
they fired
Yep.
J. Rob, 928 overall for this franchise. But for that regime with those, with Zach Taylor and his coach, 6-25-1 in 2 years. There are definitely. So so Paul Dana wrote it this way. He said, quote, they felt the culture was changing, the talent level rising, but they understood what that record meant in 31 other cities. And then here's a quote from Callahan about that, his emotion with Mike Brown, the owner, and why he felt that. He said, quote, I felt the investment, I felt the care, I felt the patience. It's rare in the NFL anymore to have somebody have perspective and have patience. I always felt like there was joy in that for him too, to see people grow. I thought that was awesome. He's such a rarity, I think, in the NFL because of how long he's done it, the perspective from years and years and years of doing it. And then he goes on for more from there. So first of all, I think that's a really interesting thing. Everybody talks about Mike Brown like he's just like super cheap, right? Which, I mean, the record kind of backs that up. But also, why am I doing this with my mic today? Sorry. Also, this is the other kind of side to that, which is interesting. And by the way, and I don't do this at all, but I'm just projecting what some people – I could see someone reading that quote and thinking about Vrabel last year. It's not like this everywhere, folks. Yeah. Which, again, Vrabel was not trying to take a shot at Amy Armstrong or the Titans, whether you want to believe it or not. And Callahan's not taking a shot at anybody here. But whenever you have the comparison of where I used to work and this patience and all that, is it a little bit of a, Amy, you're patient too, right? Are you patient? Look at this patience. It's so cool.
Amy,
I don't think he was doing that at all.
I believe patience is a very nice quality. Do you have this quality?
You know what I really like in an NFL owner? Patience, perspective. It's a really amazing thing.
It is interesting. I mean, you look at their first 2 years there in Cincinnati, 2-14 the first year, and then 4-11-1 in 2020. Now, then you get Burrow in there, right? So Burrow comes in his first full season, they go 10-7. He got hurt. I don't even remember what Burrow played the first year. It was like 7 games. And then he tore his ACL, including a nice victory over the Tennessee Titans and Mike Vrabel.
Yes.
That year, his first year, to lead to the 4-11-1 record. So, like, if you're a Titans fan hearing that, you said, okay, there was nice patience displayed by the owner the first couple of years there under Zach Taylor. But the real difference is they drafted Joe Burrow, and then it becomes a little bit easier to be patient after that. So, that obviously that's not the situation here. Will Levis, we'll see what their decision ends up being on him. But, the nice Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, back-to-back first-round picks there. If I'm a Bengals fan, I'm saying, yep, that probably helped with the patience there a little bit.
I would say so. Well, and that's the thing. So what do Bengals fans think? Any Bengals fans listening right now? What do you think? I mean, here's what some people in the NFL say, which is, well, that cheap organization let a whole bunch of guys go on defense. That cheap organization let Joe Mixon go. He's one of the best backs in the league. Boy, do you miss him.
Yep.
So, Joe Burrow's playing at a high level, and this is your record. But I don't know. Some Bengals fans may look more at Zach Taylor and say, it's time to move on. It is interesting, too, like you said, I mean, that first year of 2-14, you set yourself up to get Burrow. But what was who the heck quarterback for them that year? I don't even remember.
Was Dalton? It was like the last year of Dalton?
That was like the end of Dalton, but he must have been hurt some, right? They didn't go 2-14 with Dalton at QB, did they?
I mean, I don't think so.
So there's another question for Bengals fans. But, they go 2-14, and then they're set up to draft Burrow, right? So this year, the Titans may end up going, 4-13, let's say, and they're going to be high in the draft. But that's the thing. There's no Burrow. There's no opportunity to draft a Burrow. There's no Burrow. One of these guys could be that good. Who knows? But that's the situation. That's
Dalton
the difference.
was the quarterback that year.
He played the whole year.
Bad. He played 13 games. But remember, still a 16-game schedule then.
Yeah.
Played 13 games, 16 touchdown passes, 14 picks. And then Ryan Finley played 3 games as well.
Holy cow. I forgot about Ryan Finley. The Red Rocket. Okay. I was like, that must have been like one of those, injured starter year. I mean, like maybe some of it was, but yeah. So, I mean, how much? So think about that. Like these guys come in, and again, it's Zach Taylor. It's the offensive guy. You have a quarterback who has been good. He's been a good quarterback his career, not great, but good. and he performs like that. I mean, what were people saying? Wow, these QB guys, they really got a great touch, huh? But so then you get Burrow. Did they get any credit for Joe Burrow being what he is?
Well, we literally just got a text in from Wes in Clarksville. It says, and people are calling Callahan the quarterback whisperer. Callahan didn't make Joe Burrow great. Burrow was already good coming out of college. This is from Wes on the text line.
Okay. Well, some people would say back to that, there's no one who just comes in from college and is just good.
Right.
You have to give them. Well, I mean, again, we got some wild takes flying around this station. I've heard people say Joe Burrow is system proof, but Patrick Mahomes leaned on Andy Reid in his system. But I will say, in both cases, I believe there's still structure. There's still scheming to take advantage of skill set, and there's still skill development. I mean, I don't believe that there's any quarterback who comes out and is just like, don't touch him, leave him alone. He's just going to be great.
I would agree with that. Yeah, like I think a lot of it's too about the situation, right? I mean,
exactly.
It's like it's not just who's your coach, what's your offensive line look like, what's the rest of the roster look like. You know, Burrow's a good example, right? His first year he comes in and he looks pretty good while he's there, and then he gets killed and gets his ACL torn there and was getting hit all the time his first year. The next year they drafted Marchese and they're in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Like it changes pretty quickly if you make the right decisions.
Burrow's great. Okay. Burrow is great. Burrow at Ohio State, they're like, yeah, Dwayne Haskins is better than him. Thanks, though. You can back him up.
Yeah.
So maybe they're idiots. Then he goes to LSU. Great. Heisman, national championship. Did you see who he's playing with? And also Joe Brady, his OC, who, by the way, is a huge part of Buffalo being what they are and is going to be a head coach in the NFL.
Yep.
Do you think that helped him at all? I mean,
Probably so.
I know we want to simplify things, but sometimes it's just not that simple.
615-737-1025, our phone number. So I guess the takeaway I have from this piece that Paul Daner put together at The Athletic is patience the correct route for the Titans? Can the Titans learn from this example in Cincinnati? We'll get more into that coming up next. The best and worst things in sports at 6:45. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Derek in Nashville on the text line. Look at what Trevor Lawrence has become, or rather what he hasn't. Coaching matters, going back to the quarterback credit discussion with Joe Burrow. You know, some of these guys, quite frankly, are just overhyped coming into the league. Was Trevor Lawrence overhyped? Maybe. Maybe it is as simple as that. But think about his path here. He goes to Jacksonville, which, as I went through last week, you know, we were talking about who's in a better spot or a quicker spot to compete right now. Is it the Titans or the Jags? And you look long term, just go look at the history of Jacksonville. That ownership, they just always get in their own way down there. And you got his first year coming in, the just unmitigated disaster it was from Urban Meyer. I mean, it's basically like the first year was just you almost look at it totally separate from everything else that's happened in his career. Now, look, I thought he was taking a big step his second year, the second half of his second year with Doug Peterson. His numbers were outstanding in the second half of that season. They ended up making the playoffs, and the expectations were sky high heading into his third year. And really ever since then, it's just not been very good. Like, it's not been great for Trevor Lawrence. So maybe it is just as simple as he was overhyped coming into the league and he's not that good. But you can't tell me the situation that he's been in down there with that dumpster fire of a franchise hasn't played some part in this.
For sure. Now, you watch Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence play, and let's just say if you just flip-flopped them, just take one, give Trevor Lawrence the Bengals situation, which, again, has involved some bad offensive line play, injuries, now a bad defense. I mean, again, Joe Burrow's not winning games, so they're not enough, but flip-flop them. I mean, I still, based on watching them both play, I think Burrow still does better because I just think Burrow just gets the ball out faster, and I just think he's better, you know? But yeah, that's where it gets tough. And that's where, like, all of this, what you can't quantify is what confidence, what it does to confidence when either you have good support or you don't.
Yeah.
Some people get ruined. Some people don't. Again, I always go back to Jared Goff. Just about any quarterback discussion, he's such a great example of what support means to a quarterback and how your perception of a quarterback can change. And the one big credit I'd give him is that he didn't get beat down and lose his confidence. You know, he was able to, with support, become really good. Ryan Tannehill comes here and with great support, O-line, Hall of Fame running back, OC, all that stuff. All of a sudden he's playing at a Pro Bowl level.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, all pro level for stretches. Never really did that the rest of his career. He was good at Miami at times, but so it's just always so complicated. But like this idea on the text line, again, going back to Callahan, that like he gets zero credit for, again, I'm not sitting here saying, guys, Brian Callahan made Joe Burrow. Let's be honest here. I'm not saying that, but I don't see how you can give zero credit. I like you still have to build things around a guy like that, even the most talented QB in the history of football. Give that guy, because I do agree, like, you know, that Andy Reid and his offense has been great for Patrick Mahomes.
Of course.
Now, I think Patrick Mahomes could go to a lot of situations and he would have ended up being great. Okay. Well, like Lamar Jackson, that scheme, they were smart and did things that, you know, that made it a different scheme than we've seen in the NFL because of his skill set. It takes the whole thing. It is a team sport.
Ed on the text line says, we'll never know this, but what if Callahan's plan during the interview process was 2 years and patience that it was agreed to during his hire? I believe Brinker spoke of patience this offseason.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, yeah, sure. Like, no, I don't think no one was sitting here saying, yeah, you know, the Super Bowl is very close. Nobody was saying that. Okay. But nobody was talking.
Nobody was expecting this.
No one's expecting this or talking about this.
Right. So if I can get my bearings about me.
That was good. Good mute cough, though.
Yeah, really good stuff. So what is it? what is the takeaway from this? If you're Amy Adams Strunk evaluating the whole situation right now, we've gone through ad nauseum the options in front of her. What's she going to do at the end of the year? I have no idea. How important is trusting your hires that you've made, giving them a chance to see what they can build here, and being patient enough to watch those results play out over time? How willing is she to do that? That's really the question. Like, is she still as confident as she was when she made the hires of Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan, that eventually those guys, given some time here, are going to put this thing back on the right track? Or after 1 year with Callahan or 2 years with Carthon, is she convinced that that's not going to be the case? Like that's really what this offseason is going to boil down to for the Titans. Which direction are you going here? What makes the most sense? And could you learn anything from some of these organizations, whether it be the Bengals, whether it be the Lions, as we've pointed out, the 49ers a few years ago? Could you learn anything if you're Amy Adams Strunk from the patience that was displayed in the early days of those tenures that has since paid off after that?
So what are the best examples of too much patience because it happens both ways.
Yeah.
It happens all the ways where there's patience, like with Cincinnati, and it works out.
Yeah.
The Lions, that's as we've talked about, it's not apples to apples, but listen, Dan Campbell, like midway through Dan Campbell's second season, people were like, this is even for the Lions.
It's a clown show.
This is a freaking disaster. Like, this is even embarrassing for the Lions. So we're talking about, again, that's just outside perception. As we know now, I mean, the draft, that's like they had done so many things to get better, and it was about to pop, right?
Yeah.
I don't think this year for the Titans is about to pop.
No.
But midway through that season, so we're talking like 4 or 5 weeks before this point with the Titans, it was seriously like, dude, this guy is actually their worst coach ever.
Yeah.
And then we know what happened. No, I don't believe the Titans are on the verge of that, so that's where the comparison ends. But where has there been too much patience? I mean, some Colts fans would say, like Chris Ballard.
Yeah.
But again, it's sort of like with them, they're always pretty good, They're always okay, and the roster looks pretty good. And like this year, they're playing a big game this Sunday. They're in a playoff chase of some extent. They're playing the Broncos. The Bears thing has been, but they're just constantly doing the whole thing, right? They're constantly having people on different timelines. So, and holy crap.
It's third one.
Okay, so this normally is like this. I think Nick did this on purpose to try to trip me up, man.
Maybe you're just extra fired up this morning.
Why am I punching air every time I'm talking? But the question with Amy Adams Strunk, obviously that's the question. I don't know how you could, but like I don't know how you could be like 100% confident right now, or necessarily 100%. I mean, if you're 100% convinced that the other way, then okay, then you have to make the move.
Yeah.
But what's the reality is she doesn't know. She still doesn't know, right? But again, there's all the information we don't have that I'd be interested to know. Like what kind of conversations is she having, and what does she know about how it's working on a daily basis beyond just the product we're seeing?
And here's another thing.
Keep going back to
also, how much is this next month going to shape her opinion, right? Because look, I think back to last year. I don't think it was smoke that right around Thanksgiving, there was word coming out of that building that Mike Vrabel was going to be their coach moving forward. And we talked about that at the time. I don't think they were making that up. And then a month and a half later, they had changed their mind and he was gone and he was out of there. So how much does this last month and what happens on the field? I mean, look, they're 3-10. They're going to be bad this year. I mean, they could win the rest of their games and end up 7-10. So it's like, okay, great. So you know that you're bad. How bad does it get? Like is 3-14 where she just says, you know what? Well, that's unacceptable. We can't do this. If they get to 5-12 and they look decent in the path of doing it, does that totally change everything? And they're like, yep, come on back. Levis is the quarterback. Carthon's in charge. And Brian Callahan's the coach again next year. Like, how does the next month shape the way she views these things?
Yeah, it has to be important. Another thing on that is when you think about Vrabel, look, going back to Thanksgiving last year, making sure to put out there to end the discussion, and then it changes. So why does it change? Well, I just talked about information that we don't have. The information that we didn't have at the time was the strain in that relationship, right? Which then comes out later. But how's she getting along with Rand Carthon? How does she like Brian Callahan? I mean, like, I know fans don't want to hear it. Like, I don't give a crap. I don't want crappy football anymore. But don't think that that's not important. Does she get along with her people?
It's clearly very important.
Do they have an open line of communication? Yeah, right. Because they look, and this is where Vrabel is not blameless for what happened, even though I think it was a stupid decision. Vrabel could have done a better job, from everything I've been able to gather, of communicating with people.
Yeah,
and so then it becomes this. I mean, that's just, and I understand, like, she lives in Texas too, so you're already going to have like someone having to, okay, I got Amy on the phone here for you, so that's the relationships are a big part of this, whether you like it or not.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Coming up next, it's time for the best and worst things in sports. We'll take your best things, your worst things for this week on our text line. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game.
The best and worst of the sports week. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is the worst.
You look like you're feeling sorry for yourself.
He's one of one. He is him.
This is a Coke bottle. It's not a crystal ball.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Okay, let's go.
It is that time of the week. Time for the best and worst things in the world of sports. We'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, kick us off with your best and worst things in the world of sports.
Okay, well, best. Let's go to Tennessee athletics. Let's see. You've got a lot of people were mad at Danny White for firing Kelly Harper, and we're gonna find out still about this program, but right now it's looking pretty good. Not as good as the men's basketball team, which is ranked number 1 in the country, nor as good as the baseball program, which is the defending national champion. And meanwhile, the football team is in the first college football playoff. I mean, it's pretty freaking good, man. It's going well. And also, let me shout out all the Vols fans who are enjoying this and who are laughing at Alabama. Because my worst is any Vols fan or any other fan of any other team who's doing anything but laughing at Alabama right now. Oh, the SEC, we're going to stop scheduling. Shut up. Have fun at Alabama's expense. They lost to freaking Oklahoma 24-3. Shut up. The end.
Well said.
Thank you.
Nick Keyser, your best and worst things in the world of sports.
That's tough to follow up, but I'm going over to another SEC program here in Nashville. Clark Lee was named the SEC Coach of the Year last night, so well-deserving there. It's the first time that they've had 6 wins in a year since 2018, I want to say. So big build-up there for them. Also, Diego Pavia was named the newcomer of the year, so shout out to him as well. My worst in sports, it stinks to see Randy Moss have to leave ESPN for just the time being. He's battling cancer, and I know that he was talking about that on the air. I think it was last week. He made a statement, publicly on his own social media platforms, but also said, hey, I'm going through something. So I hate to see that. It's one of the most, valuable guys in league history, and we see him struggling, and that sucks. So those are my best and worst.
My best thing in sports, the ongoing battle that will do nothing but intensify from now until December 21st between Ohio State Twitter and Vol Twitter. It is every bit as beautiful as I knew it would be heading into this. You have Ohio State fans yelling at Tennessee fans, calling them hillbillies. A lot of bickering going on back and forth. A lot of screenshots of DM battles between prominent Ohio State Twitterans and Vol Twitter folks. And, we're over a week away from the game still. This has got a chance to be pretty special by the time December 21st gets around. And look, Vol Twitter's its own thing. We've talked about that a lot. When you get a fan base like Ohio State, which is a gigantic fan base, a lot of social media battling going on right now. And I enjoyed quite a few of those yesterday.
It's been good. I see there's a bunch of it's weather stuff too, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. I saw pretty funny when it was like, yeah, this is what Ohio State fans think Neyland Stadium's like right now. It's like this tropical, like there's like a 5-degree difference in like Knoxville and Columbus, but it's good. No, it's I've seen some stuff and it's elite.
It is very, very good. My worst thing in sports, the Predators. They've lost 8 games in a row. They're back at it tonight in Dallas. I mean, nothing going well for them right now. It's in some ways depressing. It kind of feels like Groundhog Day when you think about just the way that this season has gone for them. We had Preds Insiders yesterday, and Adam Vingan and I were talking about this, and it is just to think about, like, if you're on that team right now, I believe you're 13 points out of a playoff spot. I think that's the number that as of this morning. Yes, that is the number. So you're 13 points out of a playoff spot. It's December the 12th. You got like way more than half the season still remaining. And the math would tell you that it's going to be darn impossible for you to do anything. That's got to just be a horrible feeling if you're in that locker room on December the 12th.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of hopeless. Yeah, like, that's a big word, but like the math is really adding up against them. And I'm not very good at math, but it doesn't look good.
It's not good. And I mean, it depends on where I brought up Money Puck yesterday. I think they had him at 2.5% to make the playoffs. There's one of these other statistical websites that's got him at 0.3. 0.3
0.3
on December the 12th. It's hard to do.
That's
hard to do.
Wow. Remember, there's been games before where it's 0.01 and the game flips.
Yeah.
So crazier things have happened than this Predators team making the playoffs.
There's no doubt, but it's looking rough right now. And my question is, like, can you end the losing streak before it gets to double digits? You're at 8. You got Dallas tonight, which we know that's going to be pretty difficult on the road. You got Colorado on Saturday. They're starting to play better. So that's going to be pretty difficult. It's not unreasonable to think that the Predators might beat the Dallas Stars or the Colorado Avalanche. I've seen them do it.
Sure.
But, I mean, the work's cut out for you. It's going to be pretty tough challenge the next 2 games here.
If it happens, if they win one, is there a result, a performance that can actually flip things around, or is it's just going to be okay?
I think you'd have to
it's
see
a random
3 in a row, and then you're like, okay, all right, a winning streak. I mean, I think they've won 3 in a row once this year. I mean, they have 7 wins total, so it can't be more than it can be a whole lot that they've done.
It'll be hard to count up.
I believe they were 0-5, and then they got back to 3-5. I think that was their longest winning streak of the season to this point, if memory serves me correctly. So, work cut out for the Predators beginning tonight as they take on the Dallas Stars. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Scott Ramsey, President, CEO of the National Sports Council and of the TransPerfect Music City Bowl. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. We're taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Gunner on the text line, Joe Rexrode, says, with all the injuries, losing D-Hop, terrible right side of the line, special teams are atrocious. I think both Callahan and Levis deserve another go. There needs to be overall improvements. This from Gunner on the text line. What do you make of that?
Okay.
Because some people would read that and say, well, the reason you lost Hopkins is because you were bad and you traded him at the deadline. You had a coaching staff that evaluated right tackle and decided that Nicholas Petit-Frere could be an option there. And the special teams, being atrocious, are a part of the coaching staff. So your response there, if you're responding to Gunner's text message.
Yeah. Well, especially the last thing you said. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no, they have totally unnecessary issues there. The other stuff is it kind of comes down to, okay, so how many mistakes are you allowed to make before it's fireable? Like we use the term fireable, which I still like. To me, fireable means you must be fired. But regardless, I mean, that's the question. I mean, right? I don't know.
Fireable.
Yeah, fireable. But it's like when people say a fireable offense, then that means like, okay, you did something that you now must be fired for, right?
I think it's you did something that you could be fired for, right?
Yeah.
Let's get into semantics.
It is semantics. I've always taken that as I've never heard of someone committing a fireable offense that didn't get fired.
Oh, I mean, Nathaniel Hackett committed a fireable offense his first game, right?
Well,
he just didn't get fired.
In my mind, yes. But really he did. He did.
Exactly.
He just didn't get fired
Just
right
later.
that day.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, how many of these mistakes are forgivable or fireable? Everybody's gonna make a mistake. I mean, look, any GM with a track record in this league, I mean, John Robinson's a great example. He had some incredible drafts and he had a really good first few years, and then it got quite a bit worse. But you can go find any GM you think is great in the history of the NFL, and then go look at some of their drafts, some of their top, and it's like, oh my God, did you miss this one? Right?
Oh yeah.
So is that what you are? Is there anything redeeming about the coaching and GMing of this team? I know some people right now are going to say, hell no. I mean, they're 3-10. They're sick of watching this stuff.
Right.
But is that true?
By the way, Keith on the text line says, every morning as I take the kids to school, they get to hear your 7 a.m. hour intro, and the kids both shout, another biscuit. Thanks, Joe. This from Keith and now Juliet.
Nice.
On the text line. Rexrode influencing the mind of children everywhere.
And I recommend sausage, egg, and cheese on it.
Santa in Portland. So far, it's clear, while both Callahans are likely good coaches, they cannot make great those that have little to no talent. This from Santa in Portland on the text line. I guess my follow-up question with that would be, particularly on the Brian Callahan point, is that clear? Because, look, Bill Callahan's track record is what it is. We have gotten some of the, well, is Bill Callahan really that great so far this year on the text line? And it's like, okay, he's got a very long track record of success in this league. I'm going to probably lean towards more of this roster in certain spots, particularly at right tackle, being buns, as you would say, before I start blaming the coaching part of it. Now, one thing on the Bill Callahan front that I think is fair, they clearly looked at right tackle enough to the point this year where they looked at Nicholas Petit-Frere and he said, yeah, I can work with that, because they didn't address it. So, yes, I can work with that. So, if you want to blame Bill Callahan for that, that's fine. But is it clear that Brian Callahan cannot make those around him better yet? Like, I don't know that that's completely clear after 13 games as an NFL head coach.
See, this is where, so the coaching stuff in particular is where I will make the Detroit comparison. I mean, I think that's where it works, right? Because, I mean, hey, go back and look at those teams that Dan Campbell lost every freaking game with for a while. I mean, they had some of these guys who are now part of a Super Bowl, contender, right?
Yeah.
So did he suck at doing that? How come he couldn't make them better then? How come in the first season and a half of him as a coach, he couldn't make anybody better and couldn't win any games? Now, obviously he was making people better, And then they started winning games. Is there anything that we're seeing? The most important thing is Levis. Have you seen Levis get better this year?
I mean, the answer is yes. But the problem is he started so poorly. Right? Like he started worse than he was last year. So I don't really know what to make of that. Like, let me ask you this. Is the way that he has played overall since coming back from the injury, and I realize last game not very good, is the way that he's played overall since coming back from the shoulder, how much better is that than the ending point last year would be my question. I think it's probably better. Is it a lot better? I wouldn't say that.
I would not say a lot better. No. Yeah. So then you also get into, look, there are plenty of coaching and GMing careers that have ended because the quarterback dragged them down.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's also
absolutely.
That's where it can get complicated. Do you want to blame these guys for not developing well enough, or is it just that there's some limitations he has that you can't get around? They can't figure it out.
Right. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Philip to the program. Philip, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, good morning, guys. I always enjoy listening to y'all in the morning.
Thank you.
But I was just calling to say, man, I don't think this team is as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. And I think the GM has actually put together a pretty solid team. I think it's just the quarterback. We can test it out with a theory. If you say we take Levis out and put in half or more than half of the starting quarterbacks in the league right now, I think the Titans are a legit playoff team. You can probably overturn 4 of the games we've lost with the Bears, the Jets, the Colts game, and then this past game. If we have better quarterback play in just those 4 games, even with the line and with the bad special teams play, we probably win all 4 of those games. And with all 4 of those games, that makes us a legit – we'll be in playoff contention with just those 4 games getting overturned. But with Levis playing as bad as he's played in those games, granted, the last game he didn't play bad, but he missed some plays that would have won us those games.
Yeah.
But just switching out one player shouldn't make a team that everybody calls in and says, oh, this team is terrible, this team is horrible. If you switch out one player, it shouldn't make a horrible team go to a playoff contention team. Just my opinion. But I think we got some pieces, especially on defense. We don't talk about how solid the defense has played this year. We really wasted a pretty solid defense. To say in the Jacksonville game, we only gave up 1 drive, and that was it. And they got 2 turnovers. When the Texans played them the week before, the Texans supposedly have a good defense, and they gave up just as many yards and 2 touchdowns with no turnovers. So the defense is really going to waste as well. And I just hang up and listen and get y'all opinion on that.
Thanks for the call, Philip. Appreciate it.
I think there's some fair points there, but I have some counterpoints. One is, like, 2 weeks ago, we watched the defense just get completely treated like an FCS team by Washington.
Yeah. And
also the defense, they have been solid. They got some good pieces. They seem to have this very unclutch thing about them. But again, I give the defense a break, because when you are playing under the weight of that offense, which I think maybe some of what Jeffrey Simmons said last week sheds a little light on, that's not easy. But also, I mean, look, I agree. There are definitely quarterbacks who would come in here better than Will Levis, or a lot of them who are better than Will Levis in the NFL, who would have won some of those games. So the record would look better. You might be a contender for a playoff spot. That's what the NFL wants. They want everybody to be a contender. You wouldn't be a real contender. But also, the offensive line is still the worst part of this team. Levis, up and down. He did have 4, I think, pretty good weeks before last week. The offensive line is the worst part of this team. It has been. They have not figured it out. And obviously they made some miscalculations with that has just made it hard to evaluate Levis. So, I mean, I guess I agree with part of that, but not all of it.
Well, and here's the other thing. How many teams across the league could you go around and say, well, man, if you just had better quarterback play, you'd probably be in a different spot, right? Quarterback, that's why the quarterbacks get paid as much money as they get paid. Now, look, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with Philip there. You can look at it. If Levis didn't just nuke the Chicago game, you're probably winning it, even with the blocked punt at that point. I mean, the Jets game, He's rolling the ball on the ground, the egregious turnovers. Like that,
but you still also give up the drive.
You also give up the drive.
It's not all him.
It's not all him. But I mean, look, the quarterback touches the ball in every offensive play. They're going to be largely responsible in most weeks for how the game turns out. That's why they get paid $60 million per year.
Exactly. Yeah, again, I just keep going back to this guy. I swear, I'd love to see a season of Jared Goff here as the quarterback in this exact same situation. We'd all say, man, this guy stinks.
Make a trade.
Good job, Sean McVay. Got rid of that guy. Dead weight. I'm serious. Because some quarterbacks more than others have no chance that they don't have protection. He's one of those guys.
Yep.
Now, some guys are better than Levis at handling that.
Yeah, no doubt. 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your thoughts on the Titans. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Check out Nashville's best deal this week. It's 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. 312 Pizza Company serves the best pizza in town, as well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. Check them out at 371 Monroe Street in Germantown, or order takeout online at 312pizzacode.com. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals to get half off a $30 gift card to 312 Pizza Company while supplies last. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Let's head back to our phone line and welcome in Michael to the program. Michael, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I just had a quick question about the offensive line. Is there any sort of precedent throughout the NFL where over multiple DMs, coaches, everything like that, personnel groups of an offensive line being as consistently bad as ours has been over the past 3, almost 4 years at this point? I feel like, just 2 years ago, the offensive line was a completely different set of people outside of maybe Dylan Radin, but even then he was playing tackle as opposed to guard. I just really don't understand how the offensive line, with all the changes that have been made, is still this bad. Even when Cushenberry was out there, everyone was healthy, it was still not good. I just don't really understand how that's possible.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Michael. I mean, I would have to go back and look through, obviously everybody's organizational history there. Like I'm not overly familiar with the offensive line issues that the Arizona Cardinals have had. I can tell you this, the 3-year run they're on right now of offensive line play is pretty difficult to believe. And to his point, I mean, they have you can't say that they haven't addressed the offensive line. We hear that a lot, right?
They've addressed it poorly.
Well, when are they going to address the offensive line? Well, they've addressed it. They've just done so incredibly ineffectively. Now, we'll see about Latham. I know Latham the last 2 weeks has had his problems, right? Like Latham, really the last 3 weeks, hadn't been all that great out there. So maybe that's you're hitting the rookie wall, you're running in some growing pains, whatever it is. I still largely feel good about him and what he's going to be as they move forward. But the last 3 years, I remember saying, hey, guys, well, don't worry, because it's not going to get worse than Dennis Daly. And then Andre Dillard showed up, and you're like, okay, it did get worse.
Yeah. First of all, I'm sure you're right. You're not going to find a whole lot that's worse, right? But offensive line issues, it's an epidemic. I mean, there's a lot of other fan bases out there that would say, hold on now. Let me tell you about my team. There's more bad than good. There's some different reasons. It's hard to find good offensive linemen. I think the lack of contact in practice, some coaches believe that's a thing that makes it more difficult to have good offensive line play. You always have like the scheme differences, college and pro, stuff like that. So there's a shortage overall, but no, between Daly and Dillard, and again, first round 2020 Isaiah Wilson, second round 2021 Dylan Radins, third round 2022 Nicholas Petit Frere. They're trying. They've been trying. First round.
So by the way, there's probably another one coming.
First round 2023 Peter Skoronski. I mean, my goodness. So we're talking different regimes, but just in the range there is, well, we know one complete flame out, which is off the field stuff. And then you've got, pretty close to a flame out at this point with Petit Frere. I mean, I don't think he's going to be a starting, based on what I've seen this year, a starting tackle in this league again. And then Radins has settled in as a serviceable guard, but he makes some big mistakes too out there for this team, and you can improve on that. All of them, all 4 of those players I just mentioned, certainly playing below their draft positioning.
Well, and then the problem with that is not only on the field is it just not up to snuff at all, and you end up just totally limiting your offense and what you can do. But then the problem compounds because you got to go back into the draft and fix it, right? Like, are you finding an acceptable right tackle in free agency this offseason if you're the Titans? Maybe. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like on December the 12th that I've really gone over and studied the plethora of options at right tackle in free agency. But most teams find their right tackle in the draft. So now when you miss on these guys the way that they've missed on them, you just end up having to dip your toe back into the pool and using draft picks on offensive linemen that could be used elsewhere had you hit on these picks before. And that has a trickle down effect on the rest of your roster. And that's how you end up in situations like they're in right now, where you're 3-10, and you look at the roster and you're like, it's just not very good.
Right. And with free agency, again, going back to what I was talking about with the shortage overall, teams don't let good tackles go. Teams don't let good offensive linemen go. The Titans did. And that's one of those, you can look back on John Robinson and Jack Conklin, and they decided, you know what, not going to pay on this one. We're going to draft. And, I mean, now Conklin's had injury issues, but my goodness, Conklin getting a second deal versus the run they've had there. There's another kind of underrated, I would have to call it a mistake of John Robinson's tenure.
Yeah. I mean, it's a problem right now. And again, you look at the future, you're like trying to determine what you're doing moving forward here. Part of that is eval of the quarterback. And we people have thrown this out there, and it's a fair question. How much does the offensive line and the lack of protection factor into your evaluation of the quarterback? Now, I've thrown it out there like you can't just make that excuse for Levis forever, right? Like, your job is to evaluate him even in the midst of what is a terrible offensive line. And is that a difficult thing to do? Yep, it is. But you also can't just let Will Levis be your quarterback for 4 years and say, well, we'll really start the evaluation when we really fix the offensive line. Like, it's not how life works in the NFL. But unfortunately, like that's the cards that you've been dealt if you're Will Levis, and you're certainly not getting the cleanest evaluation of him. Regardless of what you think of Levis, I think we could all agree with that. Like, you're not getting this is not Jared Goff. Like, the circumstances are not the same thing, and the protection certainly is not the same thing when it comes to your evaluation of the most important position on the field. You would like for that to be a spot where, yep, he's got a clean pocket most times. He's got good protection, and he's either good enough to deliver the football accurately on a consistent basis or he's not. And unfortunately, that's just not the set of circumstances that you're evaluating this quarterback with. Fair or unfair?
Right. So, yeah, it's where it's not easy. It's, you can always hypothetical, okay, like to call it plug in this quarterback. Yeah, there's plenty of them who would do better than him. But, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a bad quarterback or doesn't have a chance. But it's just the whole side of the ball has just been betrayed by that issue. And it's still, to me, the number one issue. And I mean, how many guys they have? Latham, I think, is going to be fine. Will he be like good, really good? I think he's going to be a guy who's going to start in the league. I think Skoronski probably too. But I mean, we already are looking at. So is he a bust? I don't know. That's a big word. But is he the 11th pick?
No.
There's some things you'd rather do there, right? Yeah. But still, okay, so you have two young guys, and then how does Cushenberry come back from, then you still had, to me, the whole right side, you got to try to get better at both spots.
Well, that's the thing. So how does Cushenberry come back, and also when? Like, when is he back?
Yeah.
So, like, are you having to look at that this offseason to, make kind of a gap stop move there at center? And we all know that right tackle is going to have to be addressed this offseason in some form or fashion. Is right guard? Like, are you revamping the whole right side this offseason? Is it just as simple as finding a dynamic player maybe in the draft at right tackle and you come back with the rest of the line intact? Like, I'd love to know what their approach is going to be on the offensive line.
And look, I did think absolutely that, especially like last year, like Cleveland, the whole Bill Callahan discussion just last year was one of those, my God, what is this guy? Who is this guy, Gandalf? I mean, they had crazy injuries. I mentioned Conklin. He's one of them. They were moving guys around, third and fourth tackle, stuff like that, and they were good. They played fine. They protected Flacco. They got to the playoffs. He needs to start paying off in acquisitions, in development, all those things. Like, that's gotta happen next year.
No doubt. We'll be joined by Predators assistant coach Darby Hendrickson coming up next. Preds in action tonight, taking on the Stars. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. Preds back in action tonight in Dallas, taking on the Stars. And to help us talk more about that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in Predators assistant coach, Darby Hendrickson. Darby, good morning. How are you?
Morning, guys. How you doing?
We're awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, obviously, Darby, a rough stretch right now. You guys have lost 8 in a row. You get past the 2-goal mark the other night, get to that 3rd goal, which Barry Trotz has talked about is really important for you guys as you move forward here. But you end up not getting the win. Just what's the message right now to this group with things going the way they are from a result standpoint?
Yeah, certainly challenging. And I would say in a positive light, there's a lot of moments where we're doing the right thing. As a team, we feel good. You just mentioned it. You get the 3rd goal, you get the separator. It's a whole different night. We have to hang in there. Obviously, in the big picture, it's nobody's happy. You come into the rink in the building when you're winning, it's fun. Everyone's in a good mood. When you're not, it's not. But within all of it, you got to stay upbeat. You got to stay positive. You really have to be dialed into reinforcing what is working. And that's a challenge we go through every day, is to keep that and find it today and build from there.
So for you guys, then how do you do that? How do you keep morale? How much are you talking with the guys about, big picture things as opposed to granular things, that you're trying to work on a daily basis?
Yeah.
How do you balance that?
Well, that's a good question. Obviously we have our team type meetings, but I say being in the assistant role, probably one of the most important things is your communication. And certainly there's things you're watching with players individually in their game, but it's a lot of one-on-one time with people. And there's parts of improvement that you need. There's parts of consistency that you need, but it's the communication part's the biggest, and getting feedback from players. Obviously in the coaching role, you're trying to help them. That's your job. You're trying to help our team. But ultimately you're trying to connect with guys every day in terms of, how they can get better and how they can help their team. And that's something that happens every day.
So Darby, I mean, the line kind of came together the other night with Nyquist being out with an illness, but we saw Forsberg, Stamkos, Marchessault together, particularly early in the game. I thought they looked really good. Obviously, a couple goals from Marchessault in that one. Do you feel like you guys may have found something there? What did you like about the way that those three specifically were operating?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the production, they had a couple goals. Marchessault, having 2. I think it was a decision we made with Stamkos a few games back to put him back in the middle, where he's played wing most of the year. I thought he skated well in the middle. That whole line obviously had chemistry with the 2, but I think that's been one of our challenges, to find fits, find chemistry, find at least a pair, whether it's a center and a winger that we can consistently stay with. That one was good. There was a lot of pace. But obviously, you look at our whole, we need the 4 lines all to be going, but certainly that line came up productively, and we're hoping the same thing can happen tonight in Dallas.
And of course, you guys have been trying to find answers down the middle, and that's something for this franchise. That's been a long-term thing. But I guess some of the thought on Stamkos has been, maybe he's better off at this stage in his career on the wing. Do you feel like he can be a long-term answer down the middle?
Well, he's certainly played center before in his career. And I know when he came into training camp, he was open to both. He wanted some opportunity at center. We put him more at wing, throughout the start of the year, where he's been most of his career, but can play center too. I thought he moved real well in the middle. That would be kind of my analysis. And I think our coaching staff would share the same thing. I thought his speed, even on the first goal, just pace, up the ice that led to Marchessault's first goal. He's behind the net. Obviously made a great pass. But yeah, I liked his pace through the middle. Hopefully, with O'Reilly and Nyquist being out as they get back here and get closer, we can look at decisions. But I think Steve in the middle was real good.
So Darby, obviously you guys have run into the injury bug here on the defensive side of things with Yossi and Lazan and Carrier. So what have you made of some of the younger guys, Willsby and Blankenberg, stepping in to fill those roles, and just kind of where are you guys at right now from a defensive standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, obviously those are key people. We know that. Really good. Blankenberg and Wilsby, I just really mobile since they came in. And Delgado, I thought, played really well for us for a long stretch there. When they came in, it was just to give, opportunity. What we wanted, some puck-moving type defenseman that Delgado was. Now he's back. I thought he played well last night. They've all been good. And I think, how we want to play, just the pace and breakout and passing, they've been real effective at that. And, really good, young, hungry guys who want to make it and be consistent here. And I think they've added very well.
Dallas, obviously a really good team. Been a tough matchup, for the Preds recently. What's the key here, and what's the potential payoff if you can get a win against a team like this on the road?
Yeah. When I say coming to this game for us, our start is just really important. Just our first 10 minutes of the game. Obviously when we have not had consistency, we've not had results. That start is so important that everyone's going, everyone's engaged. Obviously you'd love to score, but just our energy, and as much as we can set pucks up and get to their zone, to make them defend, that's what we need to do early. There's ebbs and flows of the game. We know that. They got a pretty balanced group. They also have some players out like us. Tyler Sagan is out. But just really our first 10 minutes, and whether that's being physical, whether that's getting in the net, all these type of things, like our mentality, our mindset right out of the gate has got to be strong, focused, and direct.
Well, Darby, we really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for being with us today here on the program, and good luck tonight against Dallas. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Absolutely. Preds assistant coach Darby Hendrickson, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Preds taking on the Stars tonight. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. I will have your pregame at 6 o'clock here tonight on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. So get excited for that.
I'm excited.
You should be.
I am.
I'm excited as well. Look,
I'm excited that you're excited.
Well, look, tonight is game 30 for the Predators, right? So you're reaching the point where, traditionally we would start to be entering the discussion of, all right, we're getting to the middle point of the season, kind of games 30 through 60 that some people refer to as kind of like the dog days that you kind of gotta drag yourself through. You're not close enough to, the end of the tunnel yet, looking ahead to the playoffs, but still very important points on the line. Look, you've won 7 out of the first 29 games. I mean, I'm really interested to see, particularly with their injury situation, who comes out and shows that they got a little bit of fight in this thing. Like right now on defense, I mean, they're banged up. We'll see what Yossi's availability looks like. He wasn't able to come back the last 2 periods the other night. There's no update on him after the game. Andrew Burnett did talk about like young guys having an opportunity here to step up, which tells me that maybe he's not going to be back tonight, but we'll see what happens on that front. But you're down Yossi, Lazan, and Carrier, and you waive Fabro. So think about that coming into the year. I mean, it's 4 of your guys that you're counting on coming into the year that are just not available to you right now. So look, I think Wilsby's been good. I really like what I've seen from him. I don't think that Blankenberg is like some long-term answer for them. They got Stasny that's back in Milwaukee. They got
which is good to see,
which is good to see. So we'll see what that looks like for him later this year. I'm sure at some point he's going to be up. Delgado, I think, is struggled last couple of times he's been out there. Last game kind of different for everybody. He ended up playing 20 minutes. But when Yossi goes down the first period, I mean, you just got to shuffle. But right now their defense is in a rough spot. And you're taking on a Dallas team tonight that's, even with Sagan out, has a lot of firepower.
Yeah, but I think you're dead on. It's like who's got some fight, you want to see just some nastiness even. It's like if you're going to, I mean, basically you just mentioned the 30 games, so just win 20 of them. If you win 20 of them, we wouldn't be in the playoffs at that point, I don't think.
Probably not.
But you'd be back in the land of the living. Yeah. You'd be in the hunt. Just win 20 of 30. But yeah, some fights, some nasty, I'm sick of this crap.
Yeah.
I think fans want to see more of that, right?
What do you make of the idea of playing Stamkos at center?
Well, I mean, I guess I was kind of the mind that, at this point, he's better as a wing. That's a lot to put on a guy at his age.
Yeah.
You want that shot to be a weapon for you. But, hey, man, They're so strapped there. If he can handle it over a period of time, sure.
Right now, he's their best option at center.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like right now, he's the best option they got at center. It's particularly with Ryan O'Reilly being out. But look, even quite frankly, when he gets back in, I'd still consider it. Like I know he is traditionally, especially the last few years, he's been almost exclusively on the wing. I understand that. I mean, right now, you got to find some answers somewhere. I'd probably give it a longer look just to see. And then if you don't feel like it's working at some point, then move him back. But I'd give him a look at center for the next little bit here.
100%. And then the question, I didn't expect that, I'd get like an answer like, yeah, after about 15 games, that'll probably be about it for him. And then we'll have to, but that's right. Can he handle that load
right?
If he can, well, I guess I'd ask, why didn't you do that earlier? But whatever. I mean, at this point, you're trying to find anything you can find.
We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. Take more of your thoughts. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports will be with us at 8 o'clock. We'll get into the Titans and all things NFL and maybe even a little college football with Charles as well, with Bill Belichick going to be the head coach at North Carolina. Interested to get Charles's thoughts on that. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
At this
They
point,
know,
not.
some weak rant is coming. If you want rainbows and sprinkles and ice cream and pom-poms, you are in the wrong place. This team is horrific.
Shame, Will Levis. Shame.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program.
What, did you think I was ranting about Kaharski today? Keyser loves Kaharski so much, wishes that we could have him at all times.
He does.
It's just hysterical.
You need to hear that voice.
No, it's hysterical that he just jaws at you the whole time and you have no clapbacks at all.
No clapbacks?
Not really.
Wow. I think he's got several clapbacks.
He's coming at me about the cameras
Matter of
and
fact,
everything, and I always make a comment.
Do I need to go find audio? I have no clapbacks?
Sometimes Joe takes clapbacks to the extreme.
I'd say sometimes I go too far.
Yes,
That
certainly.
Bald mother. No, I'm just kidding. And sorry for making the bald comment, Robbie.
Yeah, what's going on?
I
Over here?
don't
Lord
know.
Voldemort.
All I've got is my lettuce. Yeah, that's basically all I've got.
It is beautiful.
Going for you. Thank you. So today, I kind of keep an open mind. I'm going to tell you what. Today for my rant, and this would be Karski would really rip me out of this one.
He would.
Oh, you don't even have your own rant, huh? But I got to say, I want to give a shout out. I will. We're going to make this our own a little bit because even though we've talked about it a lot, I think as we march through this last month, it's really worth hammering this point home. You can't fire the owner, but you can try to hold the owner accountable. And Amy Adams Strunk needs to talk. I mean, it's enough of this crap. We make fun of Jerry Jones all the time, and it is incredible. It's just way overboard. I mean, he has his, his presser after the game is more important than the head coach's presser after the game.
I will get better radio people to ask better questions.
Yeah. And then you got that stuff, and he's everywhere. It's too much. But man, you don't have any ambiguity about how he feels, and different owners do it different ways. When you're this bad, and you've made all these moves, and you just got a bleep ton of money to build your new stadium to continue to line your pockets, you need to speak. You need to take questions, and you need to speak to the fans. And I want to I am inspired by this. I want to give a shout out to our friend Gentry Esses, who had a fantastic open letter to Amy Adams Strunk in the Tennessean today. This is what, Gentry has a great job. I've had that job. I love that job. And this is the job of the local columnists, to hold people's feet to the fire when necessary. It's necessary now, and this is a fantastic job by Gentry. I'm going to read a couple of little segments. There's a lot of it. You gotta check it out.
Tennessean.com.
Check out Tennessean.com. But let me just read this. Unfortunately, as always, there's only public silence in the Titans owner about everything. No thoughts, no support, no criticism, no plan, no explanation. No visible leadership from this franchise other than Callahan. No real reason for Titans fans to feel anything other than disillusioned by an offseason's worth of effusive positivity that has proved fiction, not fact, calling into question the competency of the leadership involved. And, going into, again, the whole, and this is where it is, the corporate culture, the collaboration stuff. Again, the confusing move to, okay, you fire Vrabel, you're keeping Carthon, but you're also elevating Brinker over Carthon, which,
right.
And again, I know they've tried to explain that, but she didn't. And, it's enough. It really is. And I understand, look, like if you're Amy Adams Strunk, I'm sure that sitting in front of the assembled media here, you can say whatever you want about soft national media. I'm sure it doesn't sound fun. And, like
Voldemort is lurking.
Yeah, right. But I mean, look, this is not I mean, this is fair. It is fair to ask this, and it's fair for her to look at this and say, you know what, I need to come out and speak to the fans who I'm trying to keep as customers. We talked yesterday about the stadium, and I think, Paul, it's fair. Like they're going to sell, they're going to have people in that place, they're going to make the money. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like, it's not like there's like this panic, like you're just going to completely lose your fan base. But I think you're losing some people here. You're getting some apathy here. And franchises, I mean, there's some that have these generational fandom. Again, I'll go back to the Lions. Those people are just sitting there waiting for anything to happen. And then it's amazing, the response. This is a much younger fan base. And it's just so disappointing given all of the good things about her early years as controlling owner. And it wasn't like she talked all the time, but she talked sometimes.
Yeah.
When they drafted Jeffrey Simmons, she sat there and she took questions about it. She talked about it. And where has that gone?
Yeah. No, times are tough now. And sometimes as the person in charge, you got to speak when times are tough. And I know that that's not in her comfort zone, clearly. Otherwise, she would have done it by this point. But I do think at some point you got to look around and say, you know what? Like the fans, my paying customers, they deserve to hear from me on occasion. Like it doesn't have to be, Jerry Jones. Like you don't have to have a weekly press conference. You don't have to get up there with, 35 microphones in your face after every game. But like every now and then, it'd be nice to do that. I'll tell you one line that I really like, or one kind of graph here that I really like from Gentry's story. He talks about the collaborative success of the Lions and trying to emulate that if you're the Titans. He says, quote, "The Lions aren't winning because of collaboration. They're mostly winning because they've drafted better than everyone else, and especially your organization. It takes players. Your Titans don't have enough good ones." Amen.
Yeah.
We can create all the buzzwords you want to around here. At the end of the day, that's what it's about in the National Football League.
And, I hate to do this, but since this rant is just praising Gentry, I'll read the end of the column. I know is that bad? Is that wrong for me to read the end of the column?
It's pretty good.
All right, I'm going to read it. Sorry, Gentry. It says, "End of last season's finish, you deemed that unacceptable. Okay, obvious question. If that was unacceptable, what's this season been? I hope Mike Keith gets to ask you soon."
Oh, boy.
And that's, again, look, hey, I'll say this. I'll take that. I'll take the one-on-one with Teresa Walker. Anything. If you don't want to do the whole press conference thing and take all the questions, you got to do something. I mean, and I would hope that that's the plan to some extent when this season ends. I freaking hope so. I hope someone's listening over there because it's absolutely shameful if not. Another thing he brought up here, which I hadn't even thought about, was if they do clean house, they're going to send Levis up there to answer the questions?
Well, your thoughts on the general manager search?
I mean, last year we were asking about Vrabel.
Yeah, who would they send up there?
I don't know. I mean, Burke Nihill?
Yeah.
Is he going to get up there?
I don't know.
It's just, it really is. It's enough.
Jeffrey Simmons?
It's enough already. Sure, there you go. Maybe see if
Jeff, what are the qualities you're looking for in your next
Kevin Byard. Can you just speak to what's going on at your former team?
615-737-1025, our phone number. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports will be with us coming up next. We'll get into the Titans, all things NFL with him. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. And we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports to the program. Charles, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, gents. How you doing this morning?
Doing great, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, Charles, Bill Belichick, the next head coach at North Carolina in college football. Few things on this. Number one, how surprised are you that he is making the jump to college football? Is this a reading of the tea leaves that perhaps no NFL job was coming for Belichick? How do you view this seismic moment, as some are calling it, as we just found out on the television, that has gone down in college football?
Well, to answer it with the latter first, yeah, I don't think I got no indications whatsoever that there was that there had been interest conveyed to him going into the next coaching cycle, at least not yet. And it's not like Bill told me that, but I reached out to a number of agents who rep, I think, a number of individuals who would have been on Bill's staff, and they hadn't heard. It wasn't like, hey, make sure you're in the bullpen situation. I'm going to put a staff together if I get this job or that job. It was silent. And so when I think the UNC job, I think when it first broke, this idea of him going to UNC, everybody I talked to across the league was like, leverage play, it's chess. He's basically just trying to push NFL teams to the table and let them know, hey, I'm going back to coaching, get it in gear, and let's start talking. I don't think there was any evidence that motivated anybody in the NFL to reach out to him and say, hey, back channel it. Once this gets moving, you're going to be near the top of our candidate list. I think if that had happened, UNC probably this never comes together. But I do think it became real to people in the NFL the second you started to hear the idea of Stephen Belichick succeeding him and Bill basically setting up Stephen for a head coaching job at UNC. Everyone's known for as long as Stephen has been part of Bill's staffs, Bill has always wanted to make sure he had a seat at the table once he walked away. So that made it seem like, okay, this dovetails with what Bill's NFL plan often was. This really does start to feel real. The most interesting moment to me, though, was the whole manifesto. Like, he sends over this like hundreds of pages of how he wants the program to run. He doesn't want any pushback on it, all this stuff. And someone from the Falcons reached out to me, and I had reported when the Falcons job fell through, I had reported, look, there are people inside the organization that don't believe, like they believe Bill wants full power. They'll walk through the door. He's going to be the same old Bill. And after I'd reported that, all of a sudden Bill doesn't get that job, and his media tributaries quickly come out and they're like, Bill didn't want full power. He doesn't want full power. He doesn't want full power. And I kind of went back to the Falcons people at the time and I said, like, what's going on? They're saying he doesn't want full power, and the individuals I was talking to inside the Falcons are like, yeah, sure. Okay. Like, he can say that. It's Bill. Well, the second the manifesto goes over to UNC, immediately I'm getting hit up by people in the Falcons who are like, see, like, we told you, this is who he is. Like, you can say whatever he wants, but the second he comes through your door, it's going to be the same setup as the Patriots. And, so I think that's a big part of this. He can go in, he can do what he wants. It's going to be super fascinating. There is overlap now, I think, between the college game and the NFL game. You could say the NFL, if you want to put it like the terms that we're familiar with, it's the NFL is 1A and college now is 1AA. They're part of sort of the same system, and they're going to be run very similarly. And we'll see what Bill can do at UNC. It's going to be, I'm wildly fascinated by this whole situation and how this will unfold. And I think it'll be, I'm curious, and I would ask you guys this: how does he recruit? Like, how does he recruit? Like, Fox trotted out Edelman, Julian Edelman, Gronk, and Tom Brady, and those guys started clowning him immediately about, like, can you imagine Bill sitting in your living room as a high school recruit? And at one point, Tom Brady, he like does a Belichick voice, and he's like, yeah, we don't even really want you here, but you can come and we can find out if you're a good player. And I'm like, oh my god! I'm like, this is like three of the greatest players of all time who are like, I don't know how this dude would have recruited me in high school. So I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. It's going to be a wild ride.
Well, a couple of things. You mentioned Steve Belichick. I bet anybody right now he's not the next coach at UNC. There's no way that's contractual. I know some people threw that out there. I mean, it's all going to get FOIA. There's no way that's contractual. If it is, UNC is the dumbest school in the history of the planet. But
sure. Yeah.
But I tell you, man, our friend and your coworker Dan Wetzel, he's big on that. I saw their podcast. I read his. I'm like, my God, you got me excited for it, but I just don't. I think it's going to be bad. I maybe not terrible, but I don't think he's. Yeah, I understand the NFL cachet, but yeah, to your point there, you still have to.
You know, it's butt kissing you got to do to recruit in college football. Is he going to do that?
Recruit,
right?
You have to re-recruit now. You don't. He's what's. I was sitting there when it finally came down that it was happening, and I don't know why, but in my mind I just thought back to the Deion Sanders being like, "I'm coming and my Louis coming with me." I'm thinking Billy's like, "I got my Samsonite in the car." And like, what is he saying when he's like? Because there is an element of the college game where you gotta fire these kids up. You have to be there's a certain circus element to it. You don't have to be Brian Kelly, dancing and putting out weird videos.
Dude, we need some of those with Belichick.
Yes, we do.
Right? Dancing,
yeah, oh my God,
it's the same thing.
But
it's a great call.
There is definitely an element of that in the college game, and I'm like, where does Bill reach for that? Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, now he's clearly in a relationship now where he's reaching younger people.
You had to go there. I wasn't going to go there.
Listen, okay, well, I'll just say with that too. No one's going to talk about it. No one's going to. I mean, it's not going to get trotted out there. But the NFL, particularly with head coaches, it's still an optics world. It's still you can and I was thinking. You think about the Bears. You think the McCaskey family, like Virginia McCaskey, like you don't think they're sitting there going, yeah, okay, like sure, like this seems like a really totally stable situation in this guy's personal life.
Well, but colleges are huge on that. That colleges are huge on this guy's married, right? I don't want the single guys here on this camp. I mean that's a
which
thing.
Is part of what makes I think it's part of what makes this so wild, and I think it's part of. I talked to Dan about it yesterday, and Dan Wetzel loves the circus, right? So I'm like, of course, he's gonna love this because no matter how it goes, there's gonna be a circus-like nature to it.
That's true.
If it succeeds, it's gonna open up a whole other sort of dimension of how we look at maybe football, maybe some of it all of a sudden becomes possible to me. NFL coaches go the opposite way because it's more like an NFL system. If it fails spectacularly, it's that what we're not going to talk about that. Of
Charlie
course.
Weiss. There's a long list that he'll join.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I would argue that Weiss was a more charismatic draw to players than Bill is. That's saying something.
Wow.
So. Woo.
Yeah. How about Josh? Let's get Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
Can we get him going? Yeah. When's he going to be announced as offensive quality control?
Yes.
Well, Mike Lombardi being his general manager, there's definitely the quality of, getting the band back together. I mean, there's going to be some familiar names without a doubt that end up with him on that staff. But just from covering guys that left the nest, knowing people that, have gotten out of the front office, all these different things, they handle their business and their operation. It is, I don't want to look, some guys will just tell you it's joyless. Like it's joyless. Like you're there for the grind. You're there to do the job. And if you can't do it, it's a miserable experience. How does that translate to college? Like, is this, I made a joke on the podcast where I'm like, Jason Fitz was asking me, he's like, well, why do you do this? And I'm like, well, he wants to coach. He doesn't want to sit out another rotation. He clearly wants to coach. He's always going to be a coach. And then I made the joke about the end of Blue Chips where Nick Nolte's blown up his entire career, but he's walking by the basketball court and he sees the young kid and he goes, let me show you where to put your hand when you shoot a jump shot. I'm like, I don't know if that's what we're supposed to think Bill is, but yeah, I mean, I guess there's an element to him that he's going to go in and teach football to young kids, and maybe that's the draw. I've heard the opinion of like, well, if I'm a parent, I now want my kid to go and play for Belichick because it's Bill Belichick, and I don't know, man. I don't know.
Maybe, but yeah, the Ohio State and Georgia, they send guys to the NFL, and I guess I shouldn't maybe use Ohio State because he's, might be in trouble too. But there's a lot more.
What happens when you send let's say you send your 5-star, quarterback, right? What happens when that kid calls and says, Bill, coach hasn't talked to me in 3 weeks. Like coach won't look at me. Coach won't, what happens when these things that Bill would subject people to on the NFL level, where he would literally walk by people in the hallway and not look at them, not acknowledge their existence, and it really bothered them. What are you going to do when it's like kids?
I will say, it's funny you say that, but that was the whole Saban thing with the Dolphins, right? People are actually told, like, do not speak to Coach Saban unless he speaks to you first, and he did okay in college, but yeah, But it's fair. It's going to be fascinating.
I would argue that Nick is a more charismatic guy than Bill.
And you and I know that charisma well.
When you and I covered Nick, remember when he used to try to open each press conference with like a joke who clearly someone else wrote for him? And we would just be like,
some real bangers.
Yes, awful comedic timing. We're like, okay. By the way, I want to say, how was Nick graying when we covered him 24 years ago?
Yeah.
He's maintained that luscious.
No, I mean, he's actually like gone backward physically, like 20 years younger than when we covered him.
The glasses. Remember, he used to have the glasses.
Oh, yeah.
Glasses.
Yeah, he's like a 63-year-old man, and now
shit out on the Marlboros a little
Benjamin Buttons situation.
So, Charles, the Eagles, 11-2, are sitting in a really good spot in the NFC, and yet A.J. Brown stirring some things up this week.
Yeah.
When asked what's wrong with the offense, he said, passing. You had Brandon Graham get out there and talk about his and Jalen Hurts' relationship that they had to come out and try to squash yesterday. What do you make of the drama with the Philadelphia Eagles right now?
Well, and the interesting thing with AJ, there was really, it was a minute-long exchange with the reporters that everybody saw the clip where he just said passing, but it went beyond that. They kept, at one point, someone asked, like, how difficult is it to get into a rhythm if you're only passing the ball 20 times a game or whatever? And I think he said something like extremely difficult. And then at one point, a reporter asked him, what are the conversations like with Jalen on the sidelines? And he was like, there are no conversations. I don't know. And I was like, okay. I'm like, it was much more than just the whole passing thing. Like, he was shading hard. And yeah, you're 11-2. Like, you're 11-2, and what's crazy to me is when you look at what they did, clearly during the bye week, they changed. They were like, all right, Jalen's turned the ball over 7 times in 4 games. We're 2-2. He's throwing it 33 times a game. We have to retool this and figure this out. We have a great line. We have a running back who we think a lot of, obviously it's now in the MVP conversation. So what they did was he went from averaging 33 passes a game, goes in the bye, comes out. Since then, he's averaged 21 passes a game. So that's 12 passes, 12 targets that are disappearing, vanishing. And then they slid more into, okay, we're going to count more on Saquon in the running game. We're going to count more on Jalen in the running game. We're probably going to produce fewer offensive plays in total. And so someone's going to sacrifice. That ends up being the wide receivers, both Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. And I know they're upset about it. You're 9-0 since you made the change. And I do think that in that locker room with some of those offensive players, they look at like Detroit and they go, wait a minute, they can run the football, but they're also like everybody on offense is eating in Detroit. They look at Baltimore. They're like, hey, everybody on offense is eating in Baltimore. The difference is Detroit's defense stinks. They're beat to hell. Like, and then you look at Baltimore, same issue. Like, they've got defensive problems. They have to boat race. The offenses have to boat race to win games. The Eagles are holding the defense. I think it's like 15 points a game during the 9-game win streak. The Eagles defense is playing good. You can play the way that they're playing, beat teams handily, and look like one of the best teams in the NFC. So it's nonsensical. It was a foolish moment. I think everybody around it has handled it the best they can, apart from Brandon Graham, who, if I had picked someone before this happened, someone said, "Hey, who is going to defuse this?" I would have been like, Brandon Graham will. It was totally the opposite. Brandon Graham's like, Brandon, here's a fire. And he's like, well, here's a hand grenade. I'm going to throw it in the fire.
They actually hate each other.
I wish they were friends. Oh, well.
And I always love the janitorial staff that shows up afterward after something like that, because then Sirianni comes on and he's like, I see them praying together. And then I see them eating together in the cafeteria. And then Brandon Graham comes out and he's like, I didn't know what I was talking about. Like, no, man, your first words are usually the most accurate ones. And then when it, goes sideways and you come out and try to clean it up later, that's the stuff I don't trust. So yeah, not great. I would bet the over on targets for AJ Brown in the next game. Like I will guarantee
8 receiver screens and just there you go.
Yeah, I am certain he will get the first pass of the game, and I will bet you he has probably a season high number of targets in the next game. That's what usually happens. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens in this game.
Maybe they can do like a throwback, and he can throw a hospital ball at her. So everybody feel better. Feel better about it.
I'll show you.
Hey, speaking of cleaning things up, there's a segue. So everybody here, of course, is mad about, everything, Charles, with this 3-10 Tennessee Titans team. But I think in particular, we've talked today about ownership, Amy Adams Strunk. We've talked with you about it before too. But I made a comparison earlier about, you got the Jerry Jones dynamic, which is like no other owner, which is just like, my God, please stop talking about everything all the time. And there's varying degrees of that. But Amy Adams Strunk has not participated in any sort of actual question and answer session with an assembled media group here, and I believe we're going on 6 years. And when the product is this bad, to me, the product is this bad, and you just got the largest amount of public money ever for a stadium. To me, maybe you need to rethink things a little bit. But help me put into context for me. Owners in the NFL being willing to do anything, beyond like their own website.
It is rare to go that long without really having any. I mean, that's Paul Allen when he was alive spoke to Paul Allen was one of the richest people in the world, and yet would speak to the media. It wasn't like it was not like a Jerry situation. It wasn't, Paul Allen's not going to be out there when they would make a major move or sign this person or fire that person, but no, I mean, he would show up and talk to the media, and he was accessible at times when the franchise knew that was the right thing to do. And they had two strong people in place in John Schneider and Pete Carroll. And yet, Paul was still on the radar. I don't think, it doesn't, David Tepper, there are different types of owners. Like there are owners that are extremely rich and wealthy and want to be in the mix, Tepper, Jerry Jones, and then there are others, Stan Kroenke is probably more reserved, and yet he does talk to the media. You won't go 2 years without Stan Kroenke talking to the media. So this situation is rare, and I understand fans being upset, and I think a bigger part of the story too, as the stadium stuff rolls forward, fans are going to get absolutely shell-shocked out of their minds about the whole PSL thing, how much tickets are now going to cost in a real-world way, because you're going to have people are sitting there going, okay, I have to pay tens of thousands of dollars to keep the tickets that I have right now. That's what this is going to look like going forward. You're going to have people from the ticket office who I always thought this was entertaining. So when the Patriots were doing really well, people from the ticket office would call and be like, okay, you have these season tickets. If you want to renew, they're going to get hiked. You're going to pay $30,000, $25,000 for these season tickets, but we'll give you an opportunity to purchase Super Bowl tickets at X amount down the line, and we'll put you on a payment plan. It becomes it's crazy. It's completely wild. And I think that's what fans are going to experience. If an owner puts a fan base through that, you better be accessible. You better be accessible, and you're going to be hated. If you roll out a new stadium and fans are eyeballs deep in debt to watch a 3-10 team, you're going to be hated. That's the bottom line. So I think Amy Adams Strunk has to decide, do I want to be hated by my fan base? Because it'll get there fast. If it's not already there now, the combination of bad football and a lot of money to see the bad football and having no confidence that the bad football is going to be changed, that will lead to a pure hatred of an owner. That'll transform really, really quickly. You might think it's bad now. Just wait until you have Titans fans going, I can't buy season tickets, nor do I want to anymore. And this owner I don't want to be involved with the team until this owner's gone, because she doesn't know what she's doing and she's not held accountable in any way. She doesn't make herself available to be asked hard questions. It'll turn to hatred. And I hope that, she understands that. I've seen that happen with, Mark Davis makes himself available, and Raiders fans, it's turned into a hatred because he doesn't seem to know what he's doing.
Well, that's kind of my next question is so if you're her and considering all this stuff, what's the upside? Because we all have that level of public accountability if the other things stay the same.
What's the upside?
That's a deep sigh.
I mean, the upside is
you're not making a case.
Okay, well, the upside is it takes away the argument that you don't make yourself available to be held accountable. So at least that's off the table. If you're willing to go out there and
accountability.
If you're willing to go out there and take the arrows and not roll out your general manager to be your flak jacket or your team president to be your flak jacket, or make someone else go out there and get absolutely hammered, at least if you're out there taking the difficult questions, be prepared, know how to answer the questions. You better be on your P's and Q's when you get asked these things, and you can't look like a buffoon. That's obviously makes it worse. And that's completely cancels out the accountability aspect. If you just go out there and you look like you don't know what you're doing, you can't answer questions.
Are we talking about Mark Davis again? Is that what we're not mentioning anyone, but yeah, I gotcha.
It's not great when you get an owner up there and you're like, this person clearly does not know what they're doing. They don't grasp. There's no real answers here. They don't seem sharp when it comes to the plan. If you're going to do it, be as prepared as possible. But that's the upside. It takes away this person's hiding. They want my money. They're giving me a crap product. They're hiding. It's a cowardly. You look cowardly. You do. You look like you're running a corporation. It's cold. It's calculated. It's there's a very discernible feeling that develops in fan bases, and you can disarm some of that by going out and not only making yourself available, and accountable, being able to say, you know what, I made some mistakes like that. Fan bases love hearing coaches, owners, general managers going, you know what, made some mistakes. I'm going to own up to it. I owe the fan base better than this. We're going to do better. And I'm gonna take some of that on my shoulders because I could have done this better, that better. We're gonna get there. I think that helps. But when you just disappear and the media is like, well, we don't ever have a chance to really put this person, to the test. Fans notice that, and it's horrible. Like the Dan Snyder, there was a whole multitude of other stuff with Dan. It was a million things with Dan Snyder, but I can tell you, things that made it worse and worse and worse as Dan Snyder went on was the fact that he would not stand up in front of the media and talk to the media and actually take hard questions. That is the most infuriating thing possible for the fan base. And if we're being real, also the reporters who are sitting there going, we're trying to get the questions answered. This person won't do it. And I think that comes out in the coverage of the team eventually.
Charles, great stuff, man. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us today on the program, and we will talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
Yep, Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports, our guest on Robby and Rexrode. Lots to react to there from Charles. We'll do that next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Got some tickets to give away to the TransPerfect Music City Bowl at Nissan Stadium on Monday, December 30th. Be caller 5-615-737-1025. The TransPerfect Music City Bowl coming up on December 30th. Missouri taking on Iowa. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in, Adam in Portland. Adam, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Robby, man. So Charles triggered me a little bit, man, because he's talking about the experience that we're going through with these tickets right now, like all the decisions people have to make. I had my Titans house thing yesterday, and I don't know if people have talked to you about this, but it's not great. Like they're not doing good with this. It's not. I don't know if maybe it's the time of the year. Like you just care about other things that's not football, especially if your team sucks. But if you remember in Buddy the Elf, where he goes to the Empire State Building to see his dad, and you see the two guys in the suits up front. That's what it feels like when you walk in there. They've rented this office space, and like it's an icky feeling, man. It's like you could tell they got money, but you also don't really quite feel welcome. And I don't know what it is, man. But I walked away, me and my wife both, because we had to pay to park. Like it was a whole thing. And when we walked away, we were like, do we even want to do this? Like, when you sit down and you like bank it out, you're like, okay, we can afford it, but could we afford to put the money somewhere else? Hell yeah. Like, I don't know, dude. And when you start seeing Titans logos on stuff, you're like, dude, I don't even want to see them right now. I don't know. It's almost like an ex, you know, like I don't want to look at you right now. Like you done jaded me, man. Like I don't even want to talk about this. So when he talks about Amy's availability and like my feeling with the team right now, something's got to change because I'm not feeling it. And they want me to spend a lot of money, and I'm just not feeling it right now. That's where I'm at.
Yep. Thanks for the call, Adam. Appreciate it.
So wait, is your ex icky? Icky? An icky feeling. That's not a great endorsement. Yesterday we had different thoughts that it was good.
Yeah.
But look, the product and all the things that go together, you got to think that some people are thinking a little bit differently about it. I think PK is probably right that like, they're going to sell.
Well, I think I've said this before. I think there is going to be a natural curiosity with the new stadium that people are going to want to get in there and check it out. And it's more than just the Titans games. It's the future events that could be coming. It's concerts. It's all that. Now, I think strictly from a football perspective, that'll last a little while, and then it gets pretty primarily into, okay, so how good are you?
Yeah.
Like you're asking me to spend all this money. The new stadium's cool, but I've seen it. So how good are you?
Yeah.
I think you can live off that for a little while, not very long, if you're
Right.
the Titans.
And, of course, again, there's a cyclical nature to the NFL that it's hard to not cycle up and down.
Sure.
So by 2027, who knows? They could be the surprise team in the league.
I mean, Nico could be out there slinging it. For the Titans
exactly. Well, there could be 20 guys that we have no idea will be on this team that are all key players on that team. You don't know, but right now they're trying to sell, and there's
Hendon Hooker could be on his third All-Pro season.
I should have put him in the quarterback thing yesterday, by the way.
You should have.
I don't know why, but he's obviously the best of the bunch, so no need. But no, look, there's a lot we could spend a lot of time with a lot of the stuff we just talked about with Charles, but that was a pretty. That's what I would like that we've talked about before. I always say I'd like it, and then I don't actually go find out. But I would like a breakdown of ownership in the NFL and frequency. Check these boxes. Do you actually have a press conference? Do you just do a video with the team website like she did with the last moves? Again, she did do the interview with Teresa Walker, which is better than that, right? But it's still not standing in front of people and just, okay, here, what are your questions? Now, how many owners do that? I mean, Charles made it sound like a lot of them at least do it some.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I thought, too. Like, there aren't many who are completely reclusive. And this is, she
Those
really.
are strong words by Charles there
Yes.
as to what that could lead to. Yeah. I mean,
yes.
But I don't know that he's wrong either. Like, when you factor in the new stadium, the cost, all that stuff, and you're looking around and you're seeing the product that's on the field. And again, you're right. 3 years from now, who knows what this football team's going to look like? 3 years ago, I made this point yesterday. 3 years ago, they're the number one seed in the AFC, and now they're this. So that kind of goes to tell you
30 years ago.
Yeah, like that goes to show you how much things can change between now and then. But particularly if ticket prices are what they are, you got a new stadium, you're being asked to pay all this money if you're a fan, and the product is this, and then like you never hear any sort of accountability from the owner, it's not a good combo.
The new stadium changes the math on it. And even without it, you have to, from time to time, make yourself available. But the new stadium should, everybody there, whoever is courageous enough to tell her something, should be saying that. Like, let's keep in perspective what has happened here and what has happened. Because look, owning an NFL franchise, it is a very, very good deal for you right now.
Well,
anybody who owns an NFL franchise, you look at the valuations and where it's a very, very good thing.
The one thing I'll say about Amy
For
Adams
your
Strong,
wealth.
at least she is very nice. She's got a good, normal head of hair on her shoulders, unlike Mark Davis, who has got the bowl cut wandering around out there, and it's still a big problem as an owner. But at least Brady's coming in. So
I was wondering where you're going with the hair.
Well, the bowl cut for Mark
definitely
Davis
has
is one of
better
the most
hair.
amazing things I've ever seen.
He seems to really lean into it.
He really does.
It's kind of like Anthony Davis used to lean into the unibrow.
It's like, wow, you're worth billions of dollars, and you can just go in a kitchen somewhere and get that bowl over your head and say, just snip away.
What if Mark Davis had just like a, I guess like, for lack of a better term, like a regular haircut?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to imagine.
Would he be like a dashing,
and I just
movie
Google
star?
search.
I
I
mean,
just
it's
Google
possible.
search Mark Davis bowl cut, and like the different variations of this bowl cut are unbelievable. Like it's crazy. It's beautiful. So at least you got
Glad
that
we
going
could
for
bring
you.
him into the program today.
Yes.
Good old Mark
Me
Davis.
too. We'll have Preds pick the click coming up next. We'll take the first caller, 615-737-1025. If you guess the goal scorer for the Preds tonight, you win a pair of tickets to a future Nashville Predators home game. We'll do that, give our final thoughts on the program coming up next. Join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, Derek Mason downtown at JBJ's Nashville this Sunday for the pregame show, 9:30 to 11:30. They'll break down the Week 15 matchup against the Bengals, give you the latest updates before the game. Pregame show presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Sundeck Nashville, Sloan's Motorcycle ATV, and award-winning Blue Note Juke Joint and Blue Note Crossroads Bourbon. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's time for Preds Picks to click.
And a shot at a score.
Do you think you know who will score a goal in tonight's Predators game?
Little give and go.
Shoot your shot for a chance to win Preds tickets. Call 615-737-1025 now. It's Pick to Click, now on Robby and Rexrode.
It is that time of the day. Preds Pick to Click here on Robby and Rexrode. Preds in action taking on the Stars tonight. 7 o'clock puck drop. Pregame at 6. Here on 102.5, 106.3 the game. A standings change. Not in order, but in terms of correct guesses. Joe Rexrode remains at first with 5 correct answers. I did score last time out. I picked John Marchessault. He scored twice. So I'm up to 3 correct answers. Getting closer. The listeners and Nick Keyser remain at 2. With that in mind, we go back to our 102.5 the game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in JT to the program. JT, thank you for calling in. Who is your pick to click tonight for the Nashville Predators?
Anybody?
Well, that would be nice.
I mean, geez. I'm gonna say our boy Phil Forsberg tonight.
Okay. Going with Forsberg. JT, appreciate the call. Been a
Thanks,
minute
boys.
since Forsberg has found the back of the net. Needs to good game last time out, had 2 assists, but needs to find the back of the net.
Like
Joe
the
Rexrode,
lamp.
You're up first. Forsberg off the board. Your pick to click.
All right. Well, I guess I won't say no one again. That didn't work.
It didn't.
Motivated him. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go with the guy who maybe he's going to go on a heater. How about some Marchessault?
There we go. Jonathan Marchessault, the selection. Forsberg, Marchessault off the board. Nick Keyser, your pick to click.
I'm going to go with Fedor Svechkov.
There you go.
Goal number 2.
3.
It would be. Oh, he has 2 now?
Yeah, he's got 2.
Got 2 now. My bad.
So
Goal number
Forsberg.
3. That would be 50% more. Or
That would-
33% more. Which one?
Still need to figure that out.
Yeah.
Forsberg, Marchessault, Svechkov off the board. I'll go Stamkos. I have pretty good confidence he's going to play. Nyquist was sick last time out, so I don't know. Yossi, I have no idea if he's playing. I'm going Stamkos.
Yeah.
I'll go Stamkos.
Running out of
options.
possibilities.
Forsberg, Marchessault, Svechkov, Stamkos. These selections tonight. We'll see what the Preds have in their game tonight against the Dallas Stars. Know your final thoughts on the Charles Robinson take on Titans ownership, the lack of accountability that we've seen. People, the Gentry Estes column that you referenced earlier at the Tennessee and making the rounds on social media right now. Your final thoughts as we wrap up the program today.
Yeah, I'd advise people to read. I think it sums it up well, the frustration with ownership. And look, I think obviously if a move is made, there's no excuse. You have to address it, right? Unlike last year when Rand gets thrown out there and, hey, great, let's ask Rand about this situation. That was a really bad job of the Titans. But to me, even if they don't do anything, now I know some people would be like, actually, if they don't, I even want more to hear about it. But I mean, look, if you're looking at it logically, if you're an owner, you'd be like, well, if we haven't made any changes to personnel, why do I need to have a press conference? I still would strongly suggest to do it either way. At some point in this offseason.
Is it really that hard to do it like once a year? Once a year.
It should be
at the end of the year.
Like that should be like an obvious thing that you have. I know the NFL has its calendar that certain things that they mandate. This is not one of them.
Right.
But this is one of those things with your organization that you should absolutely. I mean, to me, once a year is a little light, but at
this point, I'd take that.
Sure.
Though. Yeah.
Of course. So yeah, we'll see if she's listening, if she's hearing this, if she's reading this, if she's getting this from her people. But you can't get the benefits that she's gotten and keep getting away with not ever actually addressing the people who are lining your pockets.
Right. The Bill Belichick era begins today in North Carolina. Press conference coming up at 2:00. I'll be fascinated to see what that looks like. Does he go back into? Yeah, I imagine he won't today. Like today, he'll have some energy to him.
We're on to final exam.
Yeah, exactly. But like,
we're on to spring ball.
Is he going to turn back into like the old curmudgeon out there again, or is like what we saw on TV more of what he's going to be at the college football level?
I'm trying to even remember. We think of Belichick late, and it got so
it's brutal.
But yeah, was he always like that? Like, was he like that as a younger person? I don't really remember.
I don't know.
I mean, all the stuff happened with the Jets and everything. He needs to understand, like, when he's been out here doing all this stuff, people have enjoyed it. It's been great. Bring that guy to the presser today, because you know what? You are now trying to sell people to come play with you. Just being an NFL guy is not enough. So let's see that personality.
Interested to see the way that shakes out. Fun show today. Appreciate everybody weighing in today on the program. We'll be back at it 6 a.m. tomorrow. Chasing Big Joe is coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3, The Game.